All right. I believe I'm live. I'm just trying to get Instagram to also work. Hopefully, I can get that to go live. If you're watching, give me 1 second. There we go. Go live. Okay, perfect. So, welcome everyone to the second episode of Future Single. And on this episode, I'm really, really excited to bring up Grant. But let me do my normal. See, this is what you get to see when you watch the live. But if you watch the YouTube later, you won't get to see any of this. So, I'm Jarrett Carpenter, and this is Future Signal. And on this episode, I'm going to bring Grant Nieddu up. Grant also goes by Grant Sparks. He is a coach, a content creator. He is an entrepreneur. He runs businesses. And Grant and I met on the internet, as people do these days, probably almost 3 years ago. We'll actually maybe, lock down that date of when we met. We met on the internet through cryptocurrency. And for a long time, we actually had a live show called Not Crypto Bros. If you're watching this on LinkedIn, maybe that's how you know Grant and I. Grant is going to talk today. Today's Small Business Saturday, at least in the States. And we're going to talk about the tech you can use in the world of AI, automation. Basically, if you're a small business, if you're a content creator, if you're an influencer, if you're trying to build a brand on the internet, we are going to dive into some of the tech you may already be using or you may want to know more about. And this is also going to be educational for me as someone who's running Future Signal and who does media professionally for a company, because there are some things that Grant is going to go over today that I still don't know about. So I'm really, really excited. And with no further ado, I'm going to bring Grant up on stage. Grant, how you doing?
Rock and roll Saturday. Doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. And actually, you know what I'm going to do really quick?
Do it.
So this goes live so it's live on your LinkedIn, and I think it's live on Future Signals.
That's what I'm pulling up right now. Go ahead.
Yeah, because I remember when you and I did lives, we'd take that 5 seconds to go onto the internet, go to the thing, and then share it. And so I'm going to actually go do that, which is kind of weird. So if you're listening to this on the podcast, just bear with me super quickly. Anyway, Grant, you are on the road today, as am I.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you, and how are things?
Sylvan, North Carolina, cold as hell, but that's nothing like you up in Vermont. But it is chilly. It's a gorgeous day though, and it's the type of day that it's not overcast. So if you were outside properly clothed, it would be really nice, But like I have this thing where like if I cannot be in my boxer shorts, outside and inside equally, there's something wrong with the world, And so, so I got to get over that. But Sylvan, North Carolina is gorgeous, and most of North Carolina's recovered from the storm. And they were telling me, a lot of the people were telling me that the message out there is all the roads to Western North Carolina are closed. There's a lot of recovery, Asheville, but it's really hurting the tourism industry. So anytime I'm talking to people, I'm like, dude, like it's like everything's back up and running. Like get out there. It's gorgeous. We were just at a tree farm, Darnell Tree Farms yesterday, which is super. Do you guys do that in Vermont? Like Christmas tree, and you go out and cut your own down and do the whole.
Yeah, and we even did that in Mass for a little bit of time. There are tree farms, and you'll go over, and it's basically like the IKEA of things, because like there was a time where you would buy something and be a finished product, but now it's like putting it together or going out and cutting your own tree. So people still do that. But I also feel like, and I don't know what you guys got going on, I feel like plastic trees are now definitely a thing, just because you buy them once, you put them away, you take them out again, you buy them once, it's financially it can be a better thing. Obviously, there's nothing like a natural tree once you've had it. But
yeah, and we used to do in Florida, and I actually love this tradition. We used to get an adolescent palm tree and decorate it, and then we go plant it. And then it's like, oh, I can go plant it, but like I can't go replant Fraser fir.
Yeah, especially when the ground is frozen. And where I am, as you called out in Vermont, I don't know if you can see. I'll show maybe at the end, because once I move the screen, but there's snow on the ground. It is nicely snow covered.
Oh my god!
So, but no further ado, let's jump in to. And so, yeah, just so people understand, Grant, basically, I said, Grant, I want you to come on. I want you to talk about all the tech you use in all the different facets of your life as a professional, as someone who's a content creator, as a business owner, and as someone who's avidly helping out influencers right now. And I think that this stuff is really, really important because, well, we can let's dive into the definitions, and then I'll get into a little diatribe. But here we are. And today we're going to be sharing some ideas that are good if you're running a small business, if you're an influencer, you're a content creator, or a podcaster. And I added that on because Grant and I are both in that space as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But I first would like us to define small business. So, Grant, I'm going to give you the mic because I think this is really important. You and I were
Yeah.
talking, before we hopped on. So, go
Yeah.
ahead.
The small business is defined in the SBA as companies with up to 500 employees. And like, this is joker business. Like, I don't even know well, like why this is still the definition when there's $1 million revenue companies with solopreneurs. And so maybe it should be a revenue definition, but the average small business still only pulls in between $57,000 and $58,000 top line revenue a year. And so, to me, this is a nearly useless definition. In all honesty, so when I talk about small business, I try to. My passion is for like the underdog, and if you're making less than 60,000 a year as a business, you're an underdog. But it's mostly every small business. And so when I talk about small business, I'm normally talking about people in that that distribution graph of who are kind of clumped in that middle realm. I should be selling high ticket. I should be focused on high ticket, but the truth is that I just have a bleeding heart I've been there, right? And so these are the type of people I want to serve.
I really like the SBA definition because, in the intro, I talked about how you and I come from crypto world. And I think crypto world is just a natural extension, at least if you look at Bitcoin, from two worlds, which are finance and tech. And
Mm-hmm.
for a long time, finance and tech, you'll have companies of 3 or 4 people and they're multi-million-dollar
Yeah.
businesses. Tether right now, I don't even think has like 80 employees and
Oh
they
my
have
God.
billions of dollars of revenue.
Yeah.
Strike, which is a Bitcoin company, Jack Mahler's company, I think they have like 30 or 35 people and they're multi-million-dollar companies. So,
Yeah.
uh, they're companies that are under the 500 headcount. And this is where I actually almost went into a diatribe, but I held myself back because I think the way we think about business has evolved so much where it used to be the labor, right? You took
I was
capital,
going to call that out.
yeah, you took capital, you invested it. So you and I, 300 years ago, we would have, I don't know, I'm just going to say a number and I don't know what it would be with purchasing power then, but let's say we had $50,000 and we would go buy a mill and we would
Mm-hmm.
hire some people to work the mill. And then when we got more money, we would create another mill in another place. And now we have two
Mm-hmm.
mills. So there's our labor and our capital being the real estate that we own and
Mm-hmm.
maybe the cash that we have on hand that we're going to continue to put into things.
Mm.
But one of the things I think we're going to get in today is the absolute shift that the internet has brought us in the world of create once, sell infinitely, whether it's a digital
Mm.
product or anything else. And now we live in a world of almost nearly free distribution. And we should actually at the end, but we're not going to necessarily in the slideshow, we're not going to talk about the distribution mediums being like YouTube, maybe where you're watching
Mm-hmm.
this, or LinkedIn. We mentioned Instagram, but more from like a different angle.
Yeah.
But I just think we live in a world of infinite leverage. And so that
Yeah.
idea of you and I having $50,000 now to start a business, we may be able to have a lot more leverage quicker than just having to hire. I think back in the
Yeah.
day, a business was always constrained by the amount of physical labor it has, but
Yeah.
the internet has changed this. AI is changing this drastically. Automation is changing this. Globalization is changing this. Outsource is always changing this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're stateside or even if you're not, there's all these conversations right now going on about tariffs and what that will do. And
Yeah.
that is just another leverage point for one nation to hold another nation accountable for whatever they think they can hold them accountable for.
Yeah.
Going down a different road here. But the point is, we've separated the ability to say, 100 years ago, if I came to you and I said, Grant, how many employees do you have? And you said, oh, I had 150 employees. Well, I'd be
Yeah.
like, well, Grant is that's a dude. He's got a
That's a
business
dude.
and he's out there running. But now Grant may say, hey, I have a couple employees, but I
Yeah.
may not be able to understand what his numbers look like. So I think that that's really important when we do talk about, because today is Small Business Saturday. So Small Business Saturday
Boom.
could still be a company that has, millions of dollars of monthly recurring revenue, or it could be a company, as you've called out, that has somewhere between, under 60,000 top line revenue.
Mm. Yeah, it is interesting that we report GDP, gross domestic product or production, and so that's kind of an output, like,
Yep.
but it's kind of like not a revenue, but the gross value of an output. We do report labor numbers, but it's funny that I guess the Small Business Administration has their own necessity on defining this. So I guess context matters, but you're right. You like since the information age and probably a little bit before, since we're talking about technology, it's always about leverage. And when you have technology and leverage, you're always trying to diminish your highest expense. And it's not that it's heartless about labor, but you can't ignore that labor is the biggest expense, And so it's a kind of a catch 22. But yeah, I love this discussion about small business for sure.
Yeah, I just wanted to start there. And I know that
Hmm.
normally when we have conversations, we do, it's important we understand the words that we're saying. So when we say tech for small businesses, let's just get right into
Yeah,
technology. And if it's cool, I want to take a stab at this. I've
yeah.
always found, and this is going to be a very basic definition, but for me, technology has always been something that saves humans their time. And that is where it is at such a baseline. For a couple of years of my life, I was in the Peace Corps, and for about 11 of those months when I was there, I wasn't with a family that had or I wasn't living with a family or in like a community that had a clothes washer, uh,
Hmm.
and so I didn't have that. So I had to do it by
Hmm.
hand. And I actually really enjoyed washing my clothes by hand. There was something meditative about it. But
Mm.
when you sit back and you say, okay, I do this, let's say twice a week, and it's 45 minutes to an hour, and you just add that up, the
Yeah.
opportunity cost is high if you're someone that's trying to make sure that your hours are sacred and protected and you're setting boundaries, which I know you do.
Hmm.
So, anyways, for me, the definition of technology has always been something that allows humans to basically, yes, reach efficiency, but through saving hours of their time. But
Yeah.
anyways, I wanted to start that and now throw it to you for maybe a higher up definition or a less
you know,
philosophical definition.
no, no. I mean, to me, I think of it like the place where if you're in space, you see where like night meets day, and there's that line. It's called the terminus. I picture technology like that, where the Greek roots of this is what we know, logosology, right? Logos about the techno, the building, tecton is the Greek for techno is tecton, and it means the building, right? Or the construction or the construct. So the word together means what we know about the construct. And that means it's ever unfolding. And I think that I am a technologist unintentionally, because to your point, there is a wiring in the human species for efficiency, for conservation of energy, honestly. Like we're all like, oh, how do we conserve energy? And so when we're building a business, we have headaches. And it's like, how do I conserve from this headache? And then what we know about the construct advances, and we learn, oh my God, like I could automate with Zapier this whole process. And you're like, oh man. And again, like very rarely is it like, I hate Jane Smith over in accounting and I want to get rid of her. So I'm looking for a technological solution to get rid of her just so I can profit more. More often than not, we're like, oh my God, could I never have to deal with this again? And someone, lo and behold, solves that with a piece of technology. And so for me, technology is like that terminus. It is an ever advancing edge between what we have known and what we're trying to know. And we're problem solvers in nature. So I think if you're in business, you are by default a technologist. Even if it's not digital, even if it's not info. Like if like I remember hearing about this guy who was a sick crane operator, and he found a unique way. This was in the book Clockwork. It's an anecdote from the book Clockwork by Michael Michalowicz. And they had this role in the company that was second to none. And it was because this crane operator could load lumber on a train car something like 6 times faster than anyone else, just because of the methodology. And he didn't have a new piece of technology. He didn't have a new app. He didn't have any of that. He just got really good at it. That's technology too. So for me, we're just by default looking for that edge, that terminus of how we can get more efficient. And we're not cold, but when it comes down to it, it's like, I am really trying to grow. So I happen to be, if I'm a business owner, I just happen to be a technologist. I think all of us are. And we're
Well,
either doing that good or bad, right?
yeah, and I think your business is a reflection of how good of a technologist you are on some level. And I'm really glad that you brought up the idea that a technology doesn't have to be a physical thing. It could be an idea, because I think
Mm-hmm.
Henry Ford with, the the assembly line, that was an idea. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
anything that necessarily, it was a different way of thinking things. Instead of having everyone pick up a pail of water and run it 100 yards,
Yeah.
what if we all stood in a line and passed the pail of water? That's
Yeah.
an idea, and it's not something. It's more of like a philosophy. And so I think, anyway, I think that that's really good that we put that out. So I like the call to the terminus. We're basically trying to find ways to conserve energy, to become more efficient, and for me, it's like save time. So I think those are really important when we talk
Yeah.
about Zapier. I'm really glad you brought that up because we're going to
Mm-hmm.
dive right in there. So let's
Mm-hmm.
continue to go here. Once again, this is for small businesses,
Mm-hmm.
influencers, content creators, and podcasters.
Mm-hmm.
When we look at everything, I'm going to try to make sure that we go through why do you use it? How do you use it?
Okay.
How much does it cost? Which is normally a really important thing for people to keep in mind. And then
Yeah.
are there any worthy competitors just as we go through? These are, and I also have this slide here also so I can remember
Yeah.
myself. These are where I try to go because I think we could get in the weeds on some. We may go down different rabbit holes. Hopefully they're good ones on
Yeah.
others. So the first amount of tech that we're going to talk about, and these are really just digital platforms, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is all for small businesses, but other people could use it. Influencers could use it, content creators could use it.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely other people in different niches. So here
Mm-hmm.
we go. Let's talk about ClickUp. Now, as you'll see, each slide is going to have the logo. It's going to have the domains. You can go check it out. It will have the name. And then it will have, if there's like a slogan that I found easily on the website that kind of describes everything,
Mm-hmm.
it will have that. So why don't you talk about, for small businesses, maybe how you use ClickUp, why you use it, and then why people should go check this out. And once again, we are not sponsored by any of these things today.
And no
We're
affiliate
doing
link.
this,
No
no
affiliate.
affiliate links. We're doing this out of honestly, the curiosity of our
Yeah.
hearts.
So I have tried nearly all: Notion, Monday, Evernote, Google Keep, Google Workspace, spreadsheets. I mean, and mind you, I am pre-digital, so we used to even just have physical inboxes, and I still love whiteboards. What I have found with Teams, why I like ClickUp is this: what I found with Teams is that everyone views information and project work differently. I love Kanban boards, so of course I loved Trello. I've always tried to duplicate Kanban boards and dry erase boards. So I always end up in a board model. And other people, especially detail, and I'm visually oriented, mostly detail oriented employees, which usually if you have a business, you'll end up like 60-40, right? Or 80-20, 80% are detail oriented people. They like lists. So what I love about ClickUp is at a single click, you can juggle the view of how you look at the work. And then it has a bunch of good management stuff. So, some of the other softwares like Asana and some of these, at the time that we chose ClickUp, they had similar functionality, but then you step into the management functionality. ClickUp was one of the first to have a thing called a pulse that was built right into it. I can see if you've just been clicking around, and if I really wanted to look, I can look at what you're looking at. And so I know, as a manager who cares that their employees are focused on the right things, and not, spinning their wheels, I can jump in and monitor that. That was really effective. Of course, they've got built-in automations. To be honest, I do not love ClickUp's built-in AI. Everything is AI-ified, and so we've deactivated it largely because from a project management perspective, it's very helpful because you can queue up these reports instead of digging around. A lot of these apps can get very complicated, so AI can help management. But from the average frontline worker, it's very distracting, the AI. There are built-in automations that are phenomenal. And if you can picture a Kanban board, we actually structure our Kanban board with statuses, and the statuses are the system. So everyone's like, what's our system? Well, if this is like one of our services is website building, one of those is getting clarity and content from the client. And so that has its own column, and we move that task into that column. There's an automation that kicks off. It assigns Amber. It emails the client, and then it queues up a bunch of like checklists, which is fantastic. And it saves a ton of time. But if I have a new employee and they're like, I don't know your system, what's your operations manual? I say, look at the Kanban board. Those are literally the steps. And if it's this color, it's on you. And if it's this color, it's on the client. Well, I don't know what to do. The checklist is right there. Oh, shoot. And then we have a whole other workspace in ClickUp. That's just our training library. And ClickUp, the one thing they do very well also is they have this one-click screen record right in that task. So if an employee is like, I don't know what to do, I one-click screen record, do it, and I never have to teach them again, and then I drop that video into the systems manual. So ClickUp has been second to none. We do use its automations. We do not use its AI. It costs us about $32 a month for a team of 4. And to me, that has been irreplaceable because it's a comparable price to all the other platforms. But we get, in the nuance of the little things I've mentioned, we get mileage out of. And then you have a front-facing portal. There's public links that you can show the client that they can't click, but they can see the work. So for our premium clients that pay us $3 or $4 or $5 grand a month, we can actually show them what's being done. So, hey, I need a status update. I don't mind doing that, but also, like, why don't you just look at the portal? So, like, all of that's been really helpful for ClickUp. Yeah, definitely. Have you used it?
I haven't used it, but I've used Trello and I've used Asana, and I think a Trello or a Kanban board are just the best things for projects when you're working with a team, and you just need to know where people are, both from a manager standpoint and also if you're an employee and you're just trying to figure out where I am in this road of getting this project done. I don't need to reach out to my manager. I just, okay, I'm here. And then at least with the Trello, when you clicked into each activity or each project, you'd be able to see all these other notes on the project and maybe why things haven't moved forward. But just as you said, that having each column, and I wish we actually had one of these because we're talking in abstract when we could be showing this,
Sure.
but having each column as you move left to right be a status of where the project is really powerful. So,
and so we have a rule. If someone's like, hey, I need help, we always ask, what did the task say? Because it's in there. And it's rarely that I give them information that they didn't have. It's usually I just point at the screen and say, well, what is that status telling you to do? And then they might still say, well, I'm still stuck. And then it draws out the nuance of where they're stuck. But it does save management time, like you're saying, like, just look at the status. That is what you are supposed to do. Well, what do I do in this scenario, that scenario? Now we get into nuance, and now I can really actually train something valuable. So it saves us a ton of, this is a good technology. Yeah.
This is a good tech. And I love the other thing, that the one-click record. We, at the company I work for, and just when I've worked with other people, it's so great to be able to, and especially with clients for websites, and we can kind of get into that towards the end, just to be able to screen record something. They're like, oh, how do I put up a new item on to sell? Or how do I update a photo? I've just have YouTubes that are out there that are hidden, that are only for the clients. And they're a minute long YouTube, and it shows you exactly what to do. And it saves hours. I actually tweeted the other day. This was kind of a little spicy tweet or a sour tweet, but I was like, I'm starting to create content now to not have to repeat myself. Because then I'm just like, oh, you're interested in this? I just send them a video. I'm like, yep, look at this. This is good. So let's go ahead to the next. ChatGPT. I don't know how long we need to stay on this one. We could either stay a day or we could stay a minute. I've recently just referenced ChatGPT as you were talking about something, and I can bring that up a little bit later. I think most people at this point know what ChatGPT is. They're probably using it on some level, even if it's just kind of a basic use. So maybe talk about how you use this. I think the premium is now $20 a month.
Oh, yeah.
How are you using this?
Honestly, worth every penny. It is my assistant. I will drive to and from the gym, just talking to it literally about anything that I'm thinking out loud. Because as you feed it, its learning algorithm, I might not even need the answers for now. But later, when I'm writing a book manuscript and I go, hey, based on what you know about me, what are nuances that I could add in my book that I haven't thought of yet? And it will know that. And it will know that accurately. And I will caveat, since you and I even talked, and we should talk about this with technology, you and I put this slide deck together over the last 7 to 8 days. It's even changed since then, because I am now testing Claude from Anthropic heavily for other nuanced reasons that honestly don't belong in the show right now. But for the purposes of ChatGPT, I use it heavily. We pay for the Premiere, and you put your credit card on. But what we also did, I want to say a year ago, we built a content bot in Google Spreadsheets, right? And I hand coded the entire thing, and I had to figure out the API. Now with ChatGPT, with Canvas, it is doing code perfect coding that we just launched a platform, which we'll talk about, I think, in a future slide, DMO Go. And ChatGPT wrote it. So we paired that with another platform, which you have another slide for. And I spent maybe a week and a half writing this a year ago. I did this with ChatGPT, I think this year, in about 2 hours. of the product that I have now, and we can talk more about that. So to me, this is the this is the elephant in the room. This and Claude, not just ChatGPT. I would have told you 3 weeks ago, ChatGPT is going to eat everyone else's lunch, and it's growing so fast and so quick. This is the immutable companion, and then you can pair this into the reason I'm looking at Claude is you can automatically tie it into now. Right now with ChatGPT, you have to connect an API to train that model, or I have to dictate to it. And you can pair it in, and it's still a little difficult, not very difficult, but a little difficult for the average person to tie ChatGPT into your database, whether it's your website's FAQ section or your own history of manuscripts or chats. What we're all looking for, all of us, are looking for our AI twin. We're looking for our outer brain because we have generated more knowledge, more information that we have forgotten that we've even created. Anthropic with Claude just launched a contextual language model that hovers over everything. And you connect it into your Google Drive, and it will eventually consume your entire Google Drive. And so I think ChatGPT is going to come out with this in minutes, right? And so it doesn't really matter, but everyone knows ChatGPT. I talk to it all the time. I feed its algorithm. I pair it into with easy APIs, but do not miss the ChatGPT with Canva model. A non-coder can ask it for code, and then ask it, what do I do with this code? And it will then tell you step by step. So you could be a complete non-coder, and it will tell you what to do with the code. That's my take on ChatGPT. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, we could talk about this for an hour. I want to call out a couple things just as you were talking. Andy Bryant, who actually texted me yesterday, if Andy's watching or watches this recording, he saw that you were going to be on today, and he's been on in the past to talk about AI. He's been building and coding in AI for a long time, and he's a couple things. One, he said he's going to be replaced in 5 years.
Yep.
And he and his wife have already had this conversation because he's like, this is now my path. If my job gets replaced by the thing that I've kind of been building, what do I do? Right? The economics of that. The other thing is, he said, who the hell is Grant? And why is he going on your show instead of me?
He's probably worth more than I am, for sure.
Well, I know it's tough to tell. And then I also want to call it, today's November 30th, which is a big deal to have ChatGPT up on a screen and you and I to be, two talking heads, because it was only 2 years ago in 2022 when this thing came out.
Yes.
It was early December. It was in December where I kind of, I got my account and I just started playing around. I said, what is this? I don't know what this is, but I need to understand more.
And what people need to know about this too, FYI, with my website company, I have been messing with our AI-driven website design since 2013 when I first bought Bitcoin, right? People need to realize this is 11 years ago. And then in 2015, we reapproached it and it hadn't made it anywhere. 2017, it was dirt trash. 2022, there's the promise of AI-driven website design, still trash. Most of my phone calls in the website company are, I tried an AI website builder for 2 days and I'm still stuck. What do I do? And so, but this year's different. That's how fast it's accelerating, at least in that domain. Obviously for copy, it is far and beyond. And now we're just looking at rolling out to other things like video and twinning. So I only say that as context to say, as someone who's been no bullshit messing with this for 11 years, to your point, the last 18 months are breathtaking, and I don't think we can comprehend the next 18 months.
It feels if you're at all into Bitcoin, or if you're not into Bitcoin, open up Bitcoin and look at the all-time price and the way it's gone. When it started for years, it was in the hundreds, and then it started to go up. But we're getting to that hockey stick in AI where we're not going to be able to comprehend the exponential gains. I wanted to call out a couple comments here that I missed. Donald Burns said, in our society, technology is cost savings and profit making for corporations. When we were talking about our definitions, he probably added this in. And then Nicole says, I love the record too. So she's probably talking about being able to record yourself on ClickUp. So
ClickUp, yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, we could probably spend a lot more time talking about ChatGPT. I use it all the time. I know many people who also do the same when they're in the car. They're just having a monologue about something. It could be anything. It could be like, hey, I need to pay. This is my budget and I have to pay my bills. How can I do this? I was just thinking about this. They want to charge me this much per kilowatt at my home. How can I get that down? You can ask it about anything. I ask it about I'm currently trying to become a better runner, and I'm constantly asking it what I can do to shave off
Yep.
time, and like what workouts I can use to get better at a 5K. And then the
Yeah.
stuff it comes up with, it's just sourcing the internet. So
Well,
it's
and the
just like,
final note here, and then we can
mhm,
just jump ahead. The number one innovation for this was the same thing that Google did for search
mhm.
in the early days. When Google put up this most sublimely simple interface, it was an interface problem, not a data problem. And that interface made us go, oh, I don't have to search through a list server like GeoCities or Yahoo.com or AOL. I actually could just search and it will crawl. What is that? ChatGPT did the same thing. That is what has been the acceleration, in my opinion, is the interface. And you talking about the fact that you can just drive and talk to it, and it's now inferring. Like, I can't even fathom. I can't fathom. I don't think we can fathom what's next. And then you have things like Anthropic that now it's iterating the interface further, where it's abstracting the interface, meaning it's hovering over your content with zero input. Everything is an input. I don't even think we can fathom who we're going to be in 12 months, man. Anyways.
Not even in 12 months if you look at this comment. So
Mhm.
Donald Burns says, I'm driving down the road listening from my sunglasses. So he might have the meta glasses,
Yeah.
which I think if we're
Yeah.
talking about AI, I want to call it as well. I know Claude is on the way up. Gemini is pretty good with Google. Meta still has their AI, which is now when you're in WhatsApp, or if you're in iMessenger, or you're on Facebook, or you're on
Yeah.
Instagram, it's there.
It's
Once
there.
again, we have to move on from this because you and I will go down this rabbit hole.
Sure.
Google Workspace, I kind of want to fly through this one. Most people have
Cool.
something touching the Google suite, whether you're using the Google Deck, Google Slides, Google. Most people probably get into it with Gmail.
Yeah.
For a long time, before I started to use Canva, which we're going to call it, I was using the Google Art to create logos and stuff, just because it was easy to use and you could export in different file types.
Yeah.
So most people use Google
Yeah.
Workspace. It's free on some level. Obviously, if you want bigger capabilities of storage, you have to pay for it. But if you're cool, we can just kind of fly forward
Well, and
because
the
there's
only
others.
thing I'll say with this is
Mhm.
falling radically behind. Like, it's wild. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yep. I agree too. Zapier. Now, this is one where I think we'll stop and stay for a while because I think I've used Zapier off and on for a couple of years here or there,
Mm,
basically just to connect things. I mean, it's basically an API.
yeah.
And the best way to describe an API is you can get two things that don't need to know each other to talk together.
Yeah.
So just like instead of me, when I sit at a restaurant ordering direct to the kitchen, I use the waiter. The waiter is
Mhm.
basically the API. So I don't have
Mhm.
to talk to the kitchen, but I can still get out what the kitchen's value, which is bringing me food. The waiter does that transaction. So
Yeah.
um, uh, Zapier, take control of Zapier, streamline your tasks, and achieve more with less effort. Now, I've seen people use Zapier to literally replace humans, in the sense that I don't need all these people to go do all these things.
Mhm.
Which on some level we've kind of discussed about technology doing, right?
Mhm.
Being one of the biggest costs to a small business. But talk to me about how you use Zapier, because we've never spoken about this, so I'm excited.
Yeah, we haven't really spoken about this. We've honestly begun using it less and less. We were one of the first people we knew using Zapier for automations, and it was a little buggy in the early days. So we were on again, off again, and it wasn't buggy necessarily because of itself, but because like it depends on so many APIs. It has come a long way. One of the best features we've seen recently is multi-channel chatbots. You can create a chatbot, your own custom chatbot, right in Zapier, and you can feed it a database you build of just your FAQs. Trick is you have to feed it a database, which is laborious. And APIs are the future. I would even say Donald Burns posted a note there. APIs is the future, freaking cool. They are, but I think even APIs are being evolved by the AI revolution. So Zapier is definitely keeping up better than Google Workspace. It's very affordable. I think I
Mhm.
have dozens of Zaps, but the tough thing about Zapier is the moment that I think, oh, I'm going to create an automation here, by the time I manually create it, um, it kind of has changed context already.
Do you have an example of that? Because this is how I felt when I worked with it too. Um,
So, for example, one thing we tried to do in the early days is we try to automate our inbox for support at sparkmysite.com. And you can set up a really good integration with Gmail and it can, you get this coming into the inbox, you hit an just automate a reply. Well, what we realized very quickly, it's like, hey, and the automated reply would respond. It would mail merge their name. Hey, Steve. Hey, Jane. Thank you for your request. The team's looking at it right now. And then we would do a delay. And then like 4 hours later or 2 hours later, we'd say, Grant's got this in his inbox or Amber's got this in her inbox. And very quickly, every single client thinks that their problem is the urgent problem. So they needed a more nuanced response. And so we would then program it to kind of like, and this was before the language learning models were available to us. So you could take the subject line. And so without AI, this was it felt like a Lego brick. And when they got the response back, it was obviously not heartfelt. There was no connecting from a support perspective. And so we kind of dropped it before AI. Now with AI, it's a little bit different. We need to revisit it, but now we've got to feed it data. And so like tools like Zapier, I think they need to be production driven instead of first off, I think customer service should be one of the last things we actually automate and AIify. And so Zapier should probably be more like project management, but even project management has to be nimble. So like I get a project and I could safely say when it comes in, language learning model says this is a support request versus a technical support, and it divide it out and assign it to Amber versus assign it to me. But like the client is the input, and the client doesn't know, wait, is this just like, I feel insecure about my customer order? And so it's like, now I've got to take time to feed that model. And whereas I could literally just slap a Chat GPT or Claude Anthropic model to ask it questions and it do it so much, the conversation, what we're learning from AI and things like Zapier is I still have to construct like the mousetrap. But the mousetrap is changing day by day. So you have to get very granular. Like it has to be an accounting invoicing situation. So for me, I have used and still to this day use Zapier, but we're sadly drifting away from it because it almost requires so much more than just like, let's stick Claude on it. I don't know. What about you? What are you finding on it?
No, that's what I was going to say. It's really good if you have super, super, super specific things that basically don't have on the other end have to play with people's emotions. I've used it in the past when I was setting up a funnel, just so when people would fill out this, it's a good if this, then.
Yes.
And so if they fill out this form, then they get hit with an email and then that starts an email drip. As long as that email drip can be super generic, you're good. But if there's any nuance, maybe in the form they say, hey, by the way, don't message me now. Can you send it to me in a week and remind me?
Yeah.
It wouldn't do that. It would still just say, nope, the form has been filled out. Let me hit them up. So the nuance is lost. So I was going to say, I think it's really good if you have things that like there's no client on the end or customer on the end, if that makes sense. Because there's just no.
You have to. It's almost like there has to be a scale granular problem.
Yeah.
That is literally a widget that happens every single time. Like if we were selling websites at scale, we generally don't. We generally sell 4 to 10 websites a month, which isn't really scale for us. And so there's so many nuances there. I could compartmentalize taking the client's name and putting it in this one field so that I can use it.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was using it for a while back there. I was getting a masterclass together and just trying to figure out how it all work. And that's fine. If you're going to pay $50 to learn how to do something on the internet and it's all going to be Zapiered and there's going to be a follow-up a month after and 3 months after, hey, how's the product? How can we support, those type of things. But any nuance, I think it just kind of falls apart. And that's where I do think
I agree.
It may kind of wither. But let's continue forward. Zapier is a good one. If you've never used it, go ahead and check that out. Make, this is one I'd never heard of, but what an amazing domain if you're into hoarding domains like I am, and maybe you are, Grant. From tasks and workflows to apps and systems, build and automate anything in one powerful visual platform. That sounds nice. Do you want to break down how you use that?
So Make is fantastic. One of the ways that we've used it because, this is just like Zapier on crack. I have liked the interface of Make a bit more. It is you do have to have a little bit more technical familiarity, but most people today could navigate it with ease. I like this specifically for processing content. So we came up with a little thing that we called the content machine. and someone has a piece of long form content. Well, you and I are going to go to video and upload something, and it's going to slice it up. With Make, it has more API familiarity. You can build on previous steps. It's a fairly complex visual interface, and though Zapier has a visual interface, there's just something about it that doesn't feel as freeform as Make does. And with Make, you drop, the way we're using it, you drop a piece of video into a source Google Drive. It watches for the latest video, drops it into video, and then pulls out the slices. And you kind of, you could get screwed on that, like in a variety of ways, but generally, as long as your primary platform, the original long form, was taken care of, secondary platforms can kind of be what they're going to be. So this drops into there. It then pulls out, like a next step, it pulls out the transcript, and then it goes through ChatGPT, and you say, summarize this 20-minute transcript into a YouTube-sized blurb, 3 paragraphs, 2 paragraphs, add some hashtags, and then that output exists. And then in the next step, you're going to upload the short to YouTube Shorts and use that ChatGPT shrunk transcript. And then now that you've got the transcript, you could say, rewrite this as a long form piece of web content. And now that's distributing to WordPress as a blog or whatever it is. And so, like, Make is very, why don't I do this on Zapier? Zapier just feels a little clunky from this interface. I can really move quickly, and again, we're talking about user interface in ChatGPT and Google. Make versus Zapier, the user interface just makes this so much easier, I guess. And so we're still utilizing that to process content. We have not integrated it like we should have into other aspects of our business model. And, filling out invoices that summarize, using ChatGPT to summarize the work into like a user readable form, and then dropping that into an invoice. I should actually consider that. But it is as open as your mind is, but you got to have time to, just like Zapier, to ideate how you're using it. But I find it much more diverse. And I think this one runs about $40 a month, which is a little more expensive than Zapier. But Zapier's zaps accumulate a lot over time. With Make, you have hidden costs. If you're using ChatGPT, you get those fractional penny costs for every query with ChatGPT. One run, I had a 40-minute video, I dropped it into this little content machine, and between all of the small ways I use ChatGPT, I ended up with an additional $17 or $20 bill to process that video. Time saving from having a human do it, it was just a surprise bill. And so you got to pay attention to that. But all in all, I'm very happy with the future of Make, because of how it also integrates with ChatGPT. Big time. Good one.
Yeah, I need to dive into Make. I was on the website just looking as I was putting this together, and I was pretty impressed, to be fair, with everything it can do. And if it's like a varsity Zapier, if that's moved down to JV, it's definitely something I need to look into.
Yeah.
We're going to move forward. Zoom. I don't think we need to spend much time here. Most people know what Zoom is strictly just because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
This is a video a video meeting app. I also use, and it goes back to the Google Workspace, I also use Google Meet a lot. I know you do too. So that's another one. We're going to get right into influencers. Now, before we do that, do you want to talk about some of the work you're doing with the Influencer Academy?
Yeah, thank you. Theinfluenceracademy.com. I held off from jumping into marketing with the web design company for years because of what we're talking about with small business owners. At $60,000 a year, the average invoice from a marketing company is $2,500. You're not going to help small business people. You're helping medium-sized businesses with that, but not small business owners. And largely because most marketing companies are just focused on awareness campaigns. They're not really connecting to actual sales, right? Which a small business owner making $60,000, anything they spend needs to attach to sales. So the realistic thing is most small businesses are just stuck doing awareness campaigns and engagement campaigns, which is great, right? And so along comes my partnership with Nicole. She owns an influencer company. We're merging. We just haven't done the PR launch on HotSpark yet, but hers is HotMod Influencer Agency on Spark Sites. HotSpark Show has been a show we've been doing. So the brand is going to be coming out soon, and we will do awareness campaigns. We're doing this for some of our top tier clients where we find an influencer's audience. Right now for marketing, you're spending money just learning an audience or training an audience. And so you spend a couple $100 nurturing maybe I landed on the right audience for me. Maybe it's people of color, maybe it's people in a certain region, maybe it's certain genders, maybe it's people of certain interests. And so you're always trying to curate that audience. Well, for that same couple $100, you could hire an influencer who has that audience that you already vetted, and know that the engagement rates are second only to email. Email, you expect an 8 to 10%, on average 9% click-through rate on an email campaign. So that's the highest in the industry. Ads, any paid ad, is about 1%. Influencers come in between 5 and 7% if you pick the right audience. And so Nicole opened my eyes to this, and we really started working together, talking to more and more influencers. So we started delivering influencers. Now, here's the cool thing about influencers. Not only do you get the collab, not only do people exposed to your brand, when you retarget a paid ad in the future for Small Business Saturday sale or whatever it is, you now have, your reach has now expanded. So imagine having an email list of 1,000 people. Well, if someone else did an email of another 1,000 people and you got all those 1,000 people on your email list, you got 2,000 people on your email list now. That's what reach is like. And so you now have that reach, and that's to the tunes of tens of thousands of people. And so your price cost per acquisition, might be $15 to get your service or your product, and that's really high. But with a retargeting campaign, it might drop down to $1.50 or $2 because they've seen your ad before, and maybe not that go around, but a go around in the future. So in terms of making sense, influencer work making sense as a marketing solution, content creators making sense as a marketing solution for the average small business person, I think it's second to none, because when an influencer comes in, they don't promise sales. They promise exposure. So awareness already, it's an integrated appeal or value exchange. And then if they really do want to go for sales, an influencer will say, well, hey, maybe just pay me on affiliate income because I really believe in this. And that's affiliate income is a win-win, so long as it's integrated for the creator. So anyways, it was a no-brainer for us to introduce this solution to our what we consider small business clients. And so we put together Influencer Academy, where we're training influencers about not just like, here's our templates, but also like, here's how to negotiate deals, because that's where it's falling through. And our promise is, listen, come in, use all of our tools, follow our advice to the T. We guarantee you get a paid collab in 30 days or your money back. So that's kind of like, it's a no-brainer. So we're doing both sides. We're serving brands and travel destinations on one side. Nicole has a lot of experience doing that. And on the other side, we're serving influencers and educating them. We do see there being exhaustion on specific platforms like TikTok. Like, they're just exhausted with influencer pitches and BS. But we're seeing nothing but an expansion of spend globally. The average company is, I have to be honest about this, the average company is spending less on influencers than they were last year if they were spending money last year. But this year, the average amount of companies dumping money into influencer work is much higher. So globally, marketing spend is moving away from old media and into creator-based media. So that's kind of my high-level shtick. Yeah.
That was a really good pitch. And I think later in one of the slides, we're going to actually look at the Influencer Academy, the website.
Oh, cool.
Clear. We're also at minute 48. I hope you can go a little bit past the hour, because
I'm here.
Barely. Okay, cool. Clear. Here, definitely great. All-in-one influencer marketing tools. I had never come across this. And actually, when you go to clear.com, it looks like it's a Meltwater offering. It looks like Meltwater may have.
That was fairly recent. It recently acquired them. Yeah.
Yeah, there was an M&A there. So if you go to clear.com, you know that it may look differently as the domain shifts, and they just got them. But talk to me about clear.com, because I am not near the influencer game at all. I do not know what goes on in this world. So I'm excited to learn about this.
So the conversation with influencers is not any longer follower count. Though it is relevant, it's not ultimate, right? It used to be. Clear allowed brands to look at not only your follower counts, but your engagement rates. Fairly recently, it went through a big change where they require the creator now to make an account, and that creator has to connect their channels. And if they don't, it's hard to get that data. So there was some gatekeeping from Clear that began, but all in all, it was ultimately to put power back into the influencers' hands, because that really, initially, it only put power into the brand's hands. And you could come to me and say, Grant, I've got 10,000 followers on crypto, and you have a crypto offering. I'd love to be a part of this campaign. And I look, and yeah, you got 10,000 followers, but your engagement rate is trash, right? Like no one comments, no one likes.
Hmm.
And so engagement rate really drove things, but it was like a one-way dialogue within the last year. I'm fairly sure because we had the situation with Florida Bushman, who's a prankster. He dresses like a bush. He jump scares people. We just placed him with one of our clients. He's a great guy, super fun. His YouTube is awesome. It's very large, and his engagement rate is fantastic. And so we realized fairly recently, we realized, man, we're not pulling all the data. Why can't we pull all the data like we did? We realized he had to go in and create an account. He had to attach his own channels. And now it's more of a two-way conversation. Yes, Meltwater and Clear are monetizing this more and more because that's their prerogative, right? But it's still a helpful tool when negotiating brand deals for both sides to be on the same page. If you told me you got 10,000 followers and your engagement rate is 2%, and I go, okay, I can check that without having to opening your account necessarily with a clear pull. Yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. That's okay. So it's basically a broker. It's a broker to make business for
It doesn't
influencers
broker the
and
deal, but
brands.
it definitely is fact checking. It's like a background check
Okay,
for,
so it's like
yeah.
a PSA for
Yeah.
cards. You send it away and it gets a 9.5 or whatever. Okay.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Very cool, very cool. ClickFunnels, most people have an idea of what ClickFunnels look like. And the reason why it has an asterisk is to remind me to open up the Influencer Academy. So if you're cool, I want to share that.
Sure.
And Grant, you can walk through. So
Yeah.
this is an example of a ClickFunnel. This is Influencer Academy. Grant, please.
So Influencer Academy, it's right here. You can click and join anywhere, but to honor the conversation about ClickFunnels, I've done website building forever. I could have built this on WordPress, right? But it's not about what you see visually. It's about what the steps are. And most marketing today, most people have a website. They're the average AC company. They're like, I need a landing page and I need a content page. And the question always is, what do you want your website to do? Well, most of my business is word of mouth. I don't need it to do anything. That's okay. And you're not going to change their mind about that. But I really wish we could. It's about funnels. It's how we're guiding someone through this process. And so all of the buttons, the button at the top, don't miss out, join, and yes, get started getting paid as a creator, they all go to the same page because it's about the funnel. And we really want people to generally go to the same next page. So if you think about things in terms of funnels, you realize why clients are giving you money or not giving you money because you're guiding them. And this has been a problem with website in general, even for service-based companies. Well, I want them to call me. Well, how's the customer flow through your website? So the reason we like ClickFunnels is they're the OG. We have tried Kajabi, Go High Level. We've tried all of the platforms we could get our hands on over the years, and ClickFunnels still has it got outdated for a while, which is why Kajabi and Go High Level are like, if anyone has looked for any services like this where you can email and you manage clients, it is radically focused on funnels. And then they launched ClickFunnels 2.0. And then it was a little lacking in the area of being able to create affiliates. We can now create affiliates. Like anyone who joins Influencer Academy, there's a series of workflows and automations like how do you onboard somebody to an app or to a SaaS process, or they have an inbuilt, if the client reaches this page on the funnel, hit off this series of automations. If they go to this page, nix that automation, do this automation. And it's built for marketing and sales. I can't say it any other way. Until recently, Dean Graziosi, Tony Robbins, they all built everything in partnership with Russell Brunson on ClickFunnels. There's a big snafu right now. I don't like how Russell Brunson, he's suing Go High Level. And for hashtag reasons. I still believe that in terms of a tech stack, it has the quickest onboarding. I have literally purchased Go High Level 3 times, and I'm a technologist. And each time I start building it out and it gets very convoluted. And then they say, well, go through our onboarding. I go through the onboarding and the onboarding's not convoluted. Then everyone reselling Go High Levels like Grant is super simple will help. I go through them because they're a reseller and you trust them and you get in, you say, hey, I need help. Well, there's this onboard and it turns into a 3 or 4 month complexity. And it's like, business is moving so fast. I can't take 3 months to onboard. So the onboarding for ClickFunnels is still easiest. Again, I'm not a reseller. I should be, but I'm not. I still believe it's the easiest way because some people complain, well, there's not enough features in ClickFunnels. And for me, I go, it builds the funnel. I have robust email drip options. I have robust this page to this page, or if you want to test these pages, it has robust that. And for me, it's like if there was much else, I'm starting to get distracted instead of focusing on the main thing. And because it's simpler, if you've run ads and I've run ads, we both run ads. The name of the game is to limit how many things you're testing so that you know what to improve. And so a lot of the other platforms are just all over the place. For me, ClickFunnels is still the way to go. And we still have influencer. We tried to move to go high level and we kept coming back going. It's just too difficult and we don't see the ROI. So we're still here. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I went to the top, this looks black only because I had opened up the screen before we recorded and the video had already run through a couple times. So that's why. But you can go to the influenceracademy.com to kind of check out what the ClickFunnels example looks like.
Yeah. I appreciate that.
We could probably talk about ClickFunnels as well, like ChatGPT for a long time, because I've used it and I've also bought stuff off ClickFunnels. I'll go to a website, I'm like, oh, this is a ClickFunnel. It's well done. It's pushing me towards one direction. Do I basically want to buy or am I going to X out? So it's great. The next thing for influencers is Instagram DMs. And I know with the Influencer Academy, you guys will literally go through and you probably have like macros or copy that's already written, but how to leverage Instagram. I will say Instagram DMs for me are really important because I have two phones. I have one for basically North America, one for South America. And so the one thing where you can always kind of find me is I have Instagram open on both because I use Instagram now for personal, connecting with people, but also for work and for this podcast to be able to move things forward because it's basically just a messaging platform. But anything else to add there?
The only thing I'd add is do video. If someone has video enabled, send them a video message. They're getting DMs left and right. The DMs are being pushed into the requested tab, and most people don't even look at the requested tab. So if you are DMing as an influencer, if you're DMing a brand, please flirt with the brand, meaning post content about them and tag them for weeks in advance. Like if you want to work with a brand and you want them to pay you several $1,000s for your content, show them you can deliver. So tag them. But when it comes to DMs, if you're trying to really break through, please do not just drop a text DM. Yes, we have templates for that can help a little bit, but send a video DM. If you want to break through and connect with someone, get your face in front of them. People resist this, and I do not know why, but video DMs are everything. And I would say the same on any platform, honestly. If you can send a video DM, please do it. It shows people are now deciding they can choose from anyone. We have complete choice today. And it used to be pre-internet, you had limited choice. But if they have unlimited choice of whether or not to do business with anyone that looks nearly like you with a better audience or better engagement rate, people ultimately decide to do business with people they like, and they only decide if they like them with personal touch. So
it tied into DMs, but a lot of time when I connect with people on LinkedIn for the first time, or I'm starting to build a relationship with someone on LinkedIn, I'll send them voice messages to kind of run through things. It's also just quicker for me than to sit there and try to type something out. And when we type things out, we often do get bogged down. Is this said perfectly? Is that verb right? Should I be doing this? But I'll be like, hey, I saw this. And actually for the guest who will be coming on next week, I've sent her a couple messages like that. We've still never met in person, but we've been on, spaces and stuff. So, all right, let's continue to move forward. Unicorn platform. And I have an asterisk because I'm going to go show another example. So unicorn platform looks like, go ahead, Grant, go.
No, this is great. I want to give a shout out, and his name, I am so remiss on this. Not John Rush. Maybe it's John Rush. What I'll do is afterwards in the comments, I'll drop his Twitter handle. He's on a variety of platforms. He is an indie hacker. If you're familiar with the indie hacker movement, the idea is what we're talking about. One-person shows trying to create monthly recurring revenue on micro platforms with micro purposes. And they don't have to be the next Tesla or SpaceX where they're groundbreaking technology. You just have to do something that people really need one bit better. And DMO Go is this. A lot of travel influencers, they want to go to Puerto Rico or they want to go to Istanbul, and they're just shooting in the dark. They're jumping on LinkedIn. They're scrolling through LinkedIn. They're jumping in DMs. They hope they're talking to the right person. I would say this, why not just use my contact list of specific people? We have a specific list of the right person to talk to. Why not just talk to that person? And so we've made our list available with DMO Go. And so that's what DMO Go is. I built it on Unicorn platform, which was an indie hacker project that just said, how do we rapidly stand up a directory which has huge amounts of SEO value, or a single purpose platform that won't get into the weeds of and make it drag and drop. So this guy, again, I think his name is John Rush. I will drop his information below afterwards. He's an indie hacker that you can just talk to on Twitter. He's making really good money. He launches projects all the time. There's another one that parallels him. Levels.io is a guy that we follow as well. Another indie hacker doing phenomenal work of seeing an opportunity in the market, a pain in the market, and just saying, I don't have to make this sexier. I don't have to make this reach all of the masses. I don't have to have it help us survive an asteroid collapse or solve global warming. I just have to meet this one need. And so this was a move into single purpose indie hacking, but for influencers and travel creators. And right now you could buy and go get, and we add more contacts every single month. But right now I think it's like 300 of our actual contacts of the actual person that actually works at that tourism board, get their personal email and phone number.
Wow.
Like, what's that worth? And so it saves so much time. So that's what this is. But the Unicorn platform literally is kind of like ClickFunnels, but it's not funnel focused. It's single purpose focus. You grab the templates. I built this, I think, in about 3 hours of work. And I literally, my data for it, I connected with Google Sheets, and you're just like, and it literally says, grab this link from Google Sheets, and you drop it in and it creates a directory. So any niche focus you have, that you want to share with people, gatekeep, maybe you do an exchange for an email. Maybe it's not a paid thing. Maybe it's a directory thing. Unicorn platform, I've been dealing with SEO for years. And the trouble with SEO is, well, how do I get 1,000 listings in here so that the Google algorithm picks it up and so I get a bunch of traffic, and then I could put an ad up and just get paid on ad revenue. Unicorn platform is perfect for that. I saw this one guy doing role-playing games, the top 20 role-playing games, and it's some niche. And he just put it in a Google spreadsheet and dropped it in, and it creates a directory, and then he submits it as SEO to Google Search Web Console, and he gets a ton of traffic, and he just sticks up ads, and he's making, I think it's like $2,000 a month. I mean, that's life-changing for some people. So Unicorn platform is a phenomenal platform for rapidly standing up a single-purpose website.
Yeah, I wanted to share the website, and we can come back here to I'm glad that you went through that, because I couldn't really tell exactly what it was, but I love that it's just a very single, highly hyper focused on one niche. Because as you'll see, I have Squarespace written in as with an asterisk as well, because you have ClickFunnels, which is basically a way to sell something, right? But it's also a way to set up a website and have a web presence, and it's really well done. So Unicorn platform is another one I need to dive in a little bit deeper. Now we're going to get on to content creating. If people are following you, they know that you create content both for your personal brand, for your businesses, for the Influencer Academy, for Spark. Video. This is what we talked about before we got on. Make short clips from long videos. That sounds pretty simple. This is probably something I need to start to use, especially to even take this episode and drop it in. So how would I do that after I have this episode? It's up on YouTube. Would I just drop the YouTube link? Do I take the raw video and upload that to the cloud? How does it work?
Both. So I would caveat too, like every week more of these services are popping up. This is the one we've been using. You drop a YouTube video, you upload the entire video, whichever, it processes it, and it has this IntelliSense AI, which actually cherry picks its own selections, which a lot of the services do. But then you can also set up your own template. So like, sometimes you record like this. You and I are stacked, and it's really good for shorts. But sometimes, sometimes for Nicole's show and I, Hotspark, we're side by side. And she might say something and I might say something, but then the guest is in another frame. Sometimes it can get weird on video AI. Well, you can set up a template where it's easy to kind of hand select some of the clips, and then maybe just click the video itself and slide it left or right. It's got a ton of options for captions, which are great. To me, this is the simplest. I won't go into a lot of the features, though, because to me, the tools like this that are best are ones that require the least amount of input and effort. And so for us, we've just set up the main function we set up was the template tool. We upload the template. I'll get an email 20 minutes later that says, hey, your clips are ready. And then right now, actually, Nicole uses this more than I do. She'll go in and pick the clips and download them. But you can also schedule them from video, which she really likes. I don't always do that because I really like to get into some of the SEO of captions and the SEO of hashtags. But it's efficient right now. And when you're doing shorts, oftentimes the shorts themselves are not your primary platform. They're just secondary. You want to make sure you're cross posting. And so we're kind of the essence that let's focus on the main platform, the main purpose, and make sure that's quality and just make sure we're cross posting. So that's how we're using it, not spending a lot of time on it. I recommend it to anyone. Do you use a different service for shorts?
Yeah, I was saying to you that I use Riverside to record. Now, this is
Yeah.
obviously on another one of the products we're going to call out what I'm
Mm-hmm.
using right now to get this going. But on Riverside, they have a way for you to kind of create shorts, and it's brilliant because they have all of the video already up in the cloud. So if you want it in a certain frame or a certain if you want me over you or me by your side, it
Mm-hmm.
can totally do that. And I don't know if it's just grabbing from YouTube. I don't think it's going to be able to kind of do that, but I'm interested. And so the question I have about video, because there's other ones, Opus Clips is another one that I've been looking
Mm-hmm.
at.
Yeah.
But how much are you paying for this? Is this you pay a monthly and you can do whatever you
Yeah.
want?
Yeah. I think I'm paying, I want to say $30 a month for video. I should know that off the top of my head. I think it's $30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is one I definitely want to check into.
Yeah.
Let me go here. Next slide. Descript.
Boom.
Descript is also having to do with podcasts. We didn't. I wasn't sure to put it if we put it in the podcast, but talk to us about Descript because I know you've been using Descript for a while.
Yeah, I really like Descript. It sidebar, it rolled out an AI called Underlord instead of Overlord. And I do recommend Donald has a question. We'll deal with that maybe in a second. So the Underlord and Descript is fairly good. It's not there yet. It's not fully baked. And so for that, I could, in essence, get rid of ultimately video and process this entirely. So I love Descript because of the editing capabilities. So I'll probably lean on this more once again. I did this a lot when we had our long form with Not Crypto Bros. I do this a lot when I have my own show and I go live with the Spark show and I want to actually do better with long form. I do great off the cuff. I have a great personality for live, but I'm not organized enough and haven't been organized enough for long form. Pre-recorded, edited, and then re-uploaded and search engine optimized for YouTube. I'm committing in 2025 to doing that for Grant Sparks and a lot of our brands, and that's as literally my primary platform. Yeah, literally. And I've been messing with Instagram, but we've all kind of agreed, me and the cohort, me and Nicole, me and the team, Amber, we talk a lot and we're like, Grant, you struggle a little bit with short form. So I'm either like Mr. Twitter and Threads because I think in a certain way, I think verbally, or I'm long form because I drop a lot of context. And so we're going to focus on YouTube, and Descript comes in because you drop the video in Descript. It has AI that recognizes if there's more than one speaker, which is phenomenal. But to me, the best feature is that people say a lot, and a lot of AI can recognize that and remove it. But you can actually, whether you write or delete, if you get rid of anything, it will automatically edit it in the video. And actually, it does an AI edit where it watches for the vocalization really well, and it doesn't feel janky. It doesn't feel jumpy. And so Descript's editor has like the manuscript on one end, the timeline at the bottom, and you can actually edit it super tight with just highlighting the copy if you wanted to go that route, instead of like you and I are kind of used to editing audio for podcasting. And so we watch the wavelength and we're like, oh, maybe I'll get it right. The AI actually nails this. And so I'm a visual first person. So once I've edited my long form in Descript, I can then send the Underlord to create my short. I got that. I can export the audio for Spotify. Got that. I can then export the long form. Got that. But then you can actually tell the Underlord, hey, summarize this in a YouTube description. So just like you would, and I think it's using ChatGPT, quite honestly, and bridging that a little bit. So to me, Descript, it's a Y Combinator out of San Francisco app. And I think it has a much stronger future, because then what it'll also do is if you type a brand new non-existent sentence, it will do your audio profile and duplicate it. And it's eerie. It also does this eye thing that if I'm looking at the camera here, or if I'm looking at myself down here, you can tell it, fix my eyes. and it will look at the camera. It'll go through the entire video with AI and fix me looking straight forward at the camera. So I could be reading a teleprompter over here the whole time, and it will make me look like, instead of down here, it'll make me look like I've been looking here the whole time.
Yeah, which is one of the things I've taken when I do other podcasts. Not this one because I'm actually looking at you so much, but
Yeah,
normally I'm looking here the entire time, and
yeah,
training myself to look here, even though I'm listening to you down here,
yeah,
takes a long time. So for the work I do from 9 to 5, if you know what I do, if you
yeah,
watch those, I am looking at this the entire time, even though someone is talking, because it's just a different vibe. It's a different conversation.
yeah.
That channel is different, but that is a very powerful thing. The other thing that does it, and it's actually an honorable mention, is captions. The Captions app. I pay
Yeah.
$60 a year for that, and it does the same thing. This eye tracking software,
Yeah.
which is really powerful. But Descript is better at pulling stuff out, the ums and the ahs and the fillers that
Does it
people
really
say,
well.
than Riverside. Riverside has that same feature, but it
Mm,
doesn't always pick it up. And so
mm.
I'll listen to people or I'll watch videos, and I know that they've used Riverside and they've just said, take this out, because you'll hear it. It'll be like, and then I thought it just, you can hear it, and our
Mhm.
ears are so attuned that we'll pick it up. But let's keep running. We
Right.
do have a question from Donald, but I'm going to bring that up
Yeah.
at the end.
Sure.
Um,
Okay.
Okay, podcasters, we're going to run right in. So,
Ooh.
Restream is what I'm using right now to be able to go live to you. If you're watching this, whether you're watching on Grant's channels or one of the Future Signal channels, it basically allows Grant and I to get into like a Zoom call and then push that call
Mhm.
out to wherever we want on the internet. And depending upon how much you pay monthly, you get to put it, send it out to more places. I think they have a
Mhm.
free version where you can send it out to like one or two, or maybe just one. You
Mhm.
could have it go live on YouTube. But right now, Future Signal is live on Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. And Grant, you probably connected some channels, so it's going live for you as well.
Yeah.
Grant, you were the one who introduced me into Restream years ago, and I think it's a
Mhm.
really powerful tool. There are other competitors, StreamYard, but I've always felt comfortable with Restream, and it's been even
Mhm.
easier to set up now than it was even a couple years ago
Yes.
when I was using it for Boys and Bolas, which was a soccer podcast that I had. So,
Yeah.
um, I don't know, Grant, if you want to say anything about this. Maybe we can move forward, only because people are watching this
Yeah.
right now. This is kind of meta, and we're on Restream.
So a lot of the tools, I'll only say this, a lot of the tools are the same across a lot of those services. Again, this boils down to how easy it is for a non-techie person to use it. And I think for me, Restream has the easiest onboarding. It has the most amount of streams. When I first approached StreamYard and OBS and some of these, there's RSTP, RMTP setups, and Facebook's has actually gotten worse over time. To go live right from Facebook is actually harder than it's ever been, especially from desktop. And so
Hmm.
I find it's easier to just set up Restream. I like how the chat shows up on the side, and then I like the stages. Like you can do presets of different like screen like this. There's presets, but you can get very granular. Like, what does the background look like on each one, and how do they work? So for me, I'll just say this: go with Restream. It's the simplest, most sublime setup of all of them. The others probably have far more features, far more crazy stuff. Get up, turn the thing on, share your screen, go nuts. Do Restream. It's easier. Yeah.
Easy sell.
Easy.
The next one's InShot, and I think you pay for InShot. InShot's an app I have on my phone, and I use that to edit, to
Mhm.
create memes, honestly, and to edit photos and to play around with stuff. I,
Yes.
I think you pay for it, but I feel like it's super fairly priced, like a couple bucks a month, right?
Yeah, like I think I paid $19 a year, $10 a year, something like
Yeah.
that. I got really fast at it. Everyone loves CapCut for good reasons, lots of good reasons. CapCut is still difficult for a newbie to show up and be like, what are these features? We'll just use a template. Okay, but like, how do I scrub the video and how do I? InShot was just easier for me, and now I've just learned it better. I'll tell you where it doesn't do well is it doesn't do templates well, and it doesn't have the same music selection. CapCut, because it's ByteDance, or its parent was ByteDance or something like that. They have better agreements on music and sound, and you can see what's trending. And then if you post to TikTok, like it's not watermarked and all the stuff. But to me, I can get on InShot and bust out a decent video very quickly for my shorts. So I love it. I found my filters super easy. There's not much to say here. I would probably say if I dove into it, CapCut's probably more dynamic. But CapCut to me is like Apple and Mac. Everyone swears by it, And it's like, nah, and it looks real good. But if we were to get into it, like it actually is limited in a lot of ways, and you can do more with the other one, but it's not the cool kit. And so InShot, like to me, is like the Android of these video apps. Like I love Android. It's more dynamic. It's safer globally. It's better to do. There's less control, but for good reason. A lot of people like CapCut, and the cool kids are doing it. So
Well, I'm a Mac guy through and through, and I hate to hear that because I love InShot, and I've pushed people to InShot. I've used it to edit long videos. I've used it to edit photos. I've used it to create memes for work and for personal and for future signals. So, anyways, it's if you don't have it, you should
yeah,
download it.
yeah. That's great.
Canva, this is actually this is meta once again. Every visual you see for future signal is created on Canva. If you and we're gonna look at the website in a sec.
Yeah.
The entire brand was created there. Grant, I know a lot of your branding was created there. My sister actually didn't know what Canva was, and she's
What?
been using Adobe to help out her partner's restaurant. They do the menu, and so I redid it last night. I showed her, and I'm going to get her onboarded because I can have her on my Canva so she can stop paying $30 a month for
A
Adobe.
month.
And I think if you're using Adobe and you're not a professional designer, as I said to my sister, it's like taking the Lambo down the end of the driveway to get the mail.
Yeah.
It's you're using the wrong tool. But Canva's great. Canva's also a female founder who basically was turned away in Silicon Valley for years, and now it's worth like 30 billion. So the
Oh, it's
joke's on
nuts.
everyone else for not listening to her. It's a
Yeah.
phenomenal editing product, design product. If you're a real designer, you look at Canva and you're like, this is trash, as real designers tell me all the time. But if you're not a real designer, but you want to create brand and you want to get stuff out on the internet, it's great. It exports in all different file types, which are really important if you're going to get
Yeah.
stuff done. I created the brand here, which you can see, and now I'm not talking to the mic. This was created there. I exported this, got it printed. Very, very easy.
I mean, they have print right in it. And the thing is Adobe, I was born and bred on Adobe, like way back in the day. And they went to a subscription model a long time ago. And that's great. But like when you think about any technology, actually, when you think about the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle rules everything. And when it comes to graphic design, 80 to 90% of the time, you do not need high-end graphic. I don't care your brand. And Canva actually even has a brand guide in it. You can set up your defaults. You can set up brands for each folder. Has like every folder could be a client, and you could set up like all the presets, and then any design you create in there, it pulls up the presets. The fonts are basically Google fonts, which you really need to be building on the web with Google fonts so that if you need to replicate it, it's easy to replicate because Adobe fonts, are very expensive. And they're not on everyone's computer. It's very not user friendly. So like 80 to 90% of all your needs, Canva said, we're going to deal with that. Anyone who's diehard on Adobe, I compare this to the Mac world where it's like, no. They're really good at these small nuances. Like, yeah, but that's less than 5 to 10% of all use cases. So you're spending money out the nose for these premium tier services. And to Adobe's credit, those 5 to 10% use cases are critically important, and they do them very well. But as a small business owner, come on. To me, it's a no-brainer. Canva landed on that. It's a no-brainer.
Exactly. It's a no-brainer. And actually, this was also supposed to be for the podcast section, but I added this section because Grant and I both have podcasts, and Grant has been creating content, audio and visual, for a long time on the internet. And I'm sure he was very happy when Canva came along and he got into it. I pay, I think, $12 a month.
Yeah.
And I just get so much value back, because if I had to deal with a designer and deal with other things, it gets really expensive. So for me, it's allows me to create brand really quickly. The last thing is Squarespace, and I do have a asterisk here because I just want to share this.
Yeah.
This is the Future Signal website, and I have it's super basic. It just says, ignore today's noise, find tomorrow's signal in a picture, and then you have all the links, and that is it.
That's good.
That's it. And that's all it kind of needs to be for right now.
Yeah.
But I was able to create this in 2 hours, 3 hours, maybe less, probably actually way less, because I basically was just deleting other stuff that I had on this website. But Squarespace is another one that I just call out. It's very similar to, it's actually not very similar at all to, and I'm blanking on what's the other name of the,
what to do?
No, the drag and drop that other people use, Wix. It's
Yeah,
very similar to Wix. I find Squarespace to be the Mac, and Wix is more like the Android.
yeah,
Squarespace is kind of a little bit more rigid, but they do have now interesting AI tools, and I'm using that in quotes. But just to call those out, these are things that I think small businesses, influencers, content creators, or podcasters could use to get a
yeah,
website up really quick. Once again, I pay like $12 a month to have it up. The domains, I don't know, $20 a year through GoDaddy, but
yeah.
it's a really good tool.
I would say about websites in general, and Squarespace is fine. Um, Everyone needs a personal website. I know that like it's in for most service-based companies to say, well, I just have a Google business listing or a Facebook page. And it's also in vogue for marketers to go, they could take your content anytime, they could deplatform you. And all that's true, but probability wise, it's very low. I think, and I love this. Is this a Bogota Bitcoin?
This is Bogota Bitcoin. It's also my website, Jarrett Carpenter, and I'm just using this not as a shield to go to the website. If you want to go, I just
Yeah.
put up these new photos, but I created this. I can create this in I don't know 5-6 hours of focus, and it just kind of breaks down. Has my articles, has the two podcasts. Obviously, this is pretty
Hmm.
meta, but like you can create this really easily,
Yeah.
and they have templates that can kind of get you to the same idea.
Hmm.
Um, and I pay $12 a month. I
Yeah.
mean, it's Squarespace was basically looking at the way websites were done years ago, and they were like, no, we can do this better. We need to give people basically a drag and drop option because if we're
Hmm.
holding back entrepreneurs and just creators on the internet and they have to go find a developer and
Hmm.
figure out the back end and code everything, we're
Hmm.
slowing down business. So the idea with
Yeah.
Squarespace when they created it was like, let's just speed up business. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd like to know what their logo means, but
Well,
I
I
see,
guess it's an S.
I see the S's, yeah,
It's
but I'm
two
like,
S's,
I
but yeah, it's
don't know what
funky.
that's all. Yeah.
Um, so Q&A,
Boom.
when we get into the Q&A, and I want to wrap this up in the next 9 minutes so we stay
Sure.
to an hour and a half.
Sure.
What I've been doing, and I don't know if you saw this, I think you may have seen this. I asked Brian to ask you a question. So that's where we're going to start. And then we're going
Okay.
to follow up with the question we have actually in the responses in the comments there. So this is from Brian Naughton. And then I'm going to
Oh.
ask you actually, Grant, I know this is a good question to, and I didn't add a quote on the end there. I should have, but I'm going to ask you to ask the next guest a question.
Okay.
So Brian Naughton says, Grant, do you think NFTs are dead?
Wow. Okay. I wasn't mentally ready for this.
And we
Okay.
have 9 minutes. I know we could talk
I'll
about
keep
this
it
for
simple.
3 hours
No,
on
no,
my
no. I'll
crypto
keep it
bros.
simple. I do think JPEGs are next to dead. I think the underlying tech of NFTs is the backbone of blockchain, in all honesty. Like, I mean, it's the top use case. So I don't think NFTs functionally as a piece of tech are dead. I think us trading JPEGs is going to go away unless we see a radical breakthrough. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to keep it simple there. But I don't think you could ever crush the unseen tech of NFTs. I think that will only keep going.
I agree. Just adding my own 2 cents. I think blockchain is going to continue on. I think the way we use NFTs is going to evolve. I think it will be in ticketing and anything where basically you need a one-off and a proof of provenance and ownership where you can have in your digital wallet.
Yeah,
I think ticketing, I mean, Ticketmaster's already using it. So
yeah.
adding,
Hmm.
I think Donald's
Hmm.
question up here, if
Hmm.
I can do that. Have you heard about IG getting rid of hashtags? This must have been when we were back talking about Instagram.
Yeah, only briefly, and I didn't give it much credence because I need to actually do Snopes check on this actually, because I heard some people rumor milling about it. The use of hashtags in terms of how users add them is subjective. Meta Threads has actually some pretty experimental use of hashtags. You can only do one per thread, and the way they roll out are very interesting. I don't think it's going to go away myself. I need to actually see if that was an official statement from Instagram. I'll check it out, but I think people like tagging things for searchability. Do we need hashtags functionally? I've always wondered this because SEO is SEO. And like if you wrote a post, if Brian Naughton posted this question as a thread, do you think NFTs are dead? Does he need to create NFT as a hashtag for us to get it in social search? Not at all. So what is it about the search that what is it about the search, or what is it about hashtags that make them still relevant? I'm not sure, honestly. Like, does it boost the search algorithm? Don says, yep, IG said it officially. Well, I'll have to look. I don't know what the deadline for that is. I would be shocked if this wasn't a short term thing because people still utilize them. But in all honesty, do I think it matters? Nah, this is noise, not signal. Even if it disappeared, I don't know how it helps your branding because the social search is going anyway. And if you searched like Donald Burns has a brand, I am Lakeland, and a ton of others in that vein that I hope he's trademarking. I think he is. And so I am Lakeland is this great brand. But if the phrase I am Lakeland is there, whether or not they use it as a hashtag, AI is now can parse those words out and sees what those words are. And if someone just typed in I am Lakeland, it would still come up in social search. So I'm not really sure if it will hurt. It helps your branding, maybe, but does it hurt your branding to not be there? I don't know. I've never seen it. I've in all my tests, I've never seen a difference.
Yeah, the Instagram CEO was talking about hashtags not even a couple months ago in a video. It's just like they don't really matter. Your content's either there or it's not. You know, your videos, like you have like 2 seconds, and if you're not getting people to watch your video in the first 2 seconds, you can put all the hashtags you want to kind of guide people.
Yeah,
So
and
I tend to agree. Yeah.
very rarely do people like how when do they come into play? So when someone goes into Instagram to the search or explore function, they don't type in hashtag I am Lakeland, all one word combined. They might type in I am Lakeland, and a browser pulls it from everywhere I inserted, of course. But also, what would pull up in a browser is the phrase I space am space Lakeland. And so it's chicken or the egg. It exists so that exists, right?
Mm.
Whereas if it's quality content, which any search does, so I'll tell you the unique place where hashtags might come into play. If they saw a very interesting post by Donald and they saw the description, and at the bottom of that description, it had a series of hashtags, hashtag Lakeland, hashtag I am Lakeland, all one word. If they click that, it might then bring up all the posts that have that. But again, this is a situation where it exists because it exists so that it exists. But why wouldn't just the phrase "I am Lakeland" thrive on its own? And but what he is bringing up is a very good thing, and that is the meme of the hashtag. So the meme of the hashtag is different. So to Donald's point, his brand could be the phrase I space am space Lakeland. That could be a brand. But the meme itself, hashtag I am Lakeland, all one word, it has its own branding. My advice to my clients for the longest time has been don't depend on a hashtag. Why? Because it's complicated. It's like giving someone a complicated domain name to remember. And at some point, that function could just disappear. So the thing should stand on its own. The branding, I am Lakeland, should stand on its own as its own I space am space Lakeland. That should be its own brand because memes, as we know, come and go quickly. And so I do get it will hurt some companies that have built on like, brands that are memed to the hashtag. Like it appears on the shirt with a hashtag and it's memed. But that trend went away quite a long time ago. And brands in general are building on their own story in their own brand. So yes, okay. So if it's official, I didn't know that. If it's official, then it's happening. So change now. Quit leaning on it and start pushing out a ton of content right now that just capitalize on your own phrasing, your own name. The tough thing about, in his case, I am Lakeland. Actually, that sort of phrase does not appear naturally. You don't say I am Vermont or I am Bogota. So if he could still capitalize on that normal phrasing, and I space am space Lakeland could still be very searchable and very unique to him. Thanks for dropping by, Donna. I appreciate you, brother. We'll be back in town next week. But yeah, so that would be my advice to anyone. Don't depend on hashtags anyway. They're memes. So yeah, man, that's a good question.
That is a good question about the IG, and I just think it just doesn't matter. Like I think paid matters more. You need to get paid engagement. You need to put paid up. Every artist, there's a big artist definitely, I don't even know if you call him indie or independent. His name's La Russell. He's probably the best person right now in hip hop, other than like Kendrick or Cole for me.
Mm-hmm.
But he has talked for hours about how he only grew because he was putting paid ads. Nothing to do with hashtags, nothing to do with that. A lot of content and paid ads. A lot of content and paid ads. Let's continue here. Let's see what we got. Next guest question. So my next guest, I'm going to give you a little. I'll give you a little background on who's coming on. Her name is Deepa, and she runs an organization that is looking to help out nonprofits vis-a-vis the latest tech. Now, we met through crypto philanthropy when I was working at Mercy Corps. We were on an X space and we've chatted and we've been kind of in the same circles. She's pivoted to AI, and her company or nonprofit, her organization, I guess I should say, helps nonprofits write better proposals for grants and for funding using AI, which makes a ton of sense. So what would your question be for her, just as we wrap up here?
If she is successful, that will lead to a higher net volume of grant proposals.
Yes.
How will she propose ensuring quality and ensuring that the higher volume of grant proposals will be able to be reviewed? What I mean is this. So the context is this, and this is not for the question. You can give her this context when you ask this question. So, and I'll shrink the question. So with influencers, because we give them templates and we give them our contacts, there's a higher net volume of applications. And very quickly, the brand will now begin to filter that out. That is entropy, right? So now we need to either provide a technology solution to synthesize. So now AI is creating the proposal, and AI is now interpreting the proposals, and the human isn't even showing up. And it's like, well, so you're temporarily making money in between. So my question to her is, if there's a higher net volume of proposals, how are they quality controlling and aiding recipient or donating organizations to process that volume? Because we're basically creating our own poison pill.
I love that. So basically, just so I understand, it's like, okay, you have this AI tool to help out organizations get funding. But as that grows, because that's what you want that to be successful. You want more people to want to use the tool. At 10 proposals every month, you can probably actually physically review them, or you can have a human review them. But at the point where you're at 1,000, which is not orders of magnitude bigger than 10 if we're growing with basically, this is kind of like a paid SaaS product on some level.
Sure.
At that level, let's say 1% are not what we want them to be. Even at 1%, that's 10 applications. That could be 10 nonprofits that miss out on money because there wasn't oversight. Okay, this is good. This is good.
Cool.
So,
and this is not a problem for her. This is a problem for everything AI.
Yes. This is not exactly. It's not a unique problem. I think that is the end of the episode, end of the slideshow, and I thank you, Grant, for staying along with me, because this is going to be great. And now this is some behind the scenes. Grant just helped me out here. We're going to call back Restream. I had to let the dog out because the dog started to bark, which is why I went on mute.
Yeah.
And I hit Grant in the private chat. I said, "Can you continue forward?" He was able to do that.
I didn't see that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You didn't even see that. Well, then you were just going and I went. But that's the power of Restream, and that's the power, I think, of creating on the internet. Grant, before we go, and I was going to, the last slide I wanted to end with was to put up all your socials and where people can find you. But I realized you just changed even your Instagram to grantsparks.me, which is also now the website I believe people can find you at.
Yeah.
But where can people get in touch with you? If they're watching obviously through your channels, then they know how to get in touch. But if they're watching through Future Signal and they want to get in touch, or if they're watching the recording, I'll obviously leave all of these below. I know on Instagram you're very active, but where if someone needs to get in touch with you and learn more about what you're doing for influencers, they want to build a website with you, they want you to help out with marketing or funnels, what's the best way?
Hit me at www.grantsparks.me. That's a links page. Or any of my socials, grantsparks.me. I'm loving threads, so I'll probably respond to discussion more in threads. And like I said, over the next new year, I'll probably be doing long form on YouTube. And so Instagram might be secondary for me. So if you really want to hit me at grantsparks.me as a website, or on threads, probably, if you want to actually chat it up. So yeah, boom.
Those are great. And I actually want to just call out the evolution that we're both having.
Yeah.
I've been watching you for years do lives, and now here I am with my own live.
Yeah.
And I've been doing pre-recordeds for almost 4 years now, and now you're gonna go to pre and edited. So I'm interested to see 2025 is gonna be exciting from a content standpoint.
Oh yeah, and I'm not getting rid of the lives. And offline, we can talk about what that funnel strategy is with a high level funnel dude for LinkedIn, Mark Firth. We got to talk about him in another
Okay.
context because he's informing us. So lives are sticking. I'm just now adding something that you're skilled at, which is long
You're
form.
adding the layer. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's a whole different realm. But if you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever, make sure you go find Future Signal. I try to be across all socials, even though we're not
Mm,
active on all socials right now, as I still build it out. You listen to this on a podcast platform. Make sure you check in the episode description because you want to actually watch this on YouTube because of all the visuals.
mhm.
And subscribe though on the podcast platforms. And thank you so much for watching. And Grant, thank you so much for joining. And
Thanks
we
for
will
having
see
me.
you guys next time.